Hey everyone, it's Miss Renee again, and it is Family Art Friday. I've got a really fun, sparkly, glammed out project for you today, so I hope you'll join us. Today's project is based on Fabergé eggs. Fabergé eggs were elaborately decorated eggs made of precious materials such as gold, jewels, and enamel. They were made by the Russian jeweler Peter Fabergé for the Russian emperors to give to their wives and mothers as Easter gifts. The first egg was made in 1885, or 135 years ago. Here's some materials I recommend for this project: paper plates, white glue, paint of some sort. I'm using acrylic, worked pretty well, toilet paper rolls. You'll need paint brushes and a cup of water to wash them off in, scissors, eggs. So for my example, I used real eggs that I blew the yolks out of. This was pretty interesting to do, and there are a lot of instructions on the internet if you've never done it before. If you're doing this project with little kids, I would recommend that the parents do that step. However, older kids might find it neat. If you don't want to deal with blowing out an egg, you can also do this on a plastic Easter egg or even just on a piece of paper. Kids will love this project either way because they really get to go wild with the decoration. If you're using real eggs, you'll definitely want large toothpicks or cooking skewers. Glitter. I don't usually like using glitter in art projects, but for this one, it's appropriate if you have it. And then just a bunch of other stuff you might have around the house. Things like ribbon, beads, sequins, anything shiny, glitzy, metallic is going to really add to this project. So use what you have and have fun with it. So if you're using real eggs, the first step is going to be to get your egg onto the toothpick or skewer. This is going to enable you to work on all sides of the egg. You can turn it on the skewer so that you can paint the back and the front at the same time. So you are going to take your eggs, and you should already have holes from blowing it out. And then take your pointy end of your toothpick, and you're just going to put it in from one end and out the other. And I left that little point at the top because I used that when I was decorating. One thing I did find is if your holes are too big for the toothpick, your egg is going to slide up and down on it. I looked online, and there was a trick that you could take a rubber band and tie it right below the egg, so that way it won't slip up and down. Now I noticed when I put my egg on the toothpick that there was a little cracking around the holes of the egg. So I took a little white glue and a paintbrush and just painted it on to strengthen where there were some cracks because I didn't want it to break as we were working on it. So you can do that and then put it aside. We're gonna paint our eggs, and you can get all the way around because we put it on the skewer. I'm going to work on 2 eggs at a time so I can show some different techniques, and I also did a third egg as my test egg, and I'll show you that one at the end. Now we are going to have to let our eggs dry, but before they dry, if you're adding any ribbon or even glitter, while the paint's wet, it can actually work like glue. So depending on what you're doing, it might be worth working with the wet egg for a few minutes. So I'm going to add some ribbon and lay it right on top of the wet egg, and it'll stick. If you miss this step, you can always go back later and use glue to get ribbon on. That's fine too. And when you're done working with the wet eggs, it's good to have a cup, or I actually use the egg crate. There's little holes in it that the toothpicks fit in. If you have that next to you, you can stick the egg in there so it dries upright instead of putting it down on a flat surface. There's going to be a few times throughout this project when the eggs are drying, and there's something else you can work on. So if we get our toilet paper roll and cut it in half, I'm going to make these into a little stand for our eggs. So while the eggs are drying, you can always work on the stand. And the same kind of decoration that you're putting on the eggs, you can also put on the egg stand. So right now I'm going to paint those, and then I'll put those aside and let those dry and go back to my egg. Another good use for toothpicks in this project is using them to apply glue in a pattern. So rather than just using the spout of the glue bottle, which is going to put a ton of glue onto the egg, or even a paintbrush, which has a larger tip and might be a little messy, if you use the toothpick, you can make intricate designs like on the Fabergé eggs. So I'm going to apply this glue, and then I'm going to pour glitter over it so the glitter will stick just where the glue is. If you have any beads, I mentioned that little tip of the toothpick that's sticking out. I put a little glue on there and then put a bead over, and it worked perfect. So you don't see the tip, and it adds a little bling to your egg. I'm also using the toothpick to add some glue dots, and then I'm going to add some seed beads on there for a little more bling. After you're done with this step, you'll set the egg aside again for the glue to dry, and you can go back to bedazzling your egg stand. If you're not using glitter, we also see this white filigree motif that's kind of floral in the Fabergé eggs, so that's something else you can do. And we also saw some picture frames, so I created a little frame in this egg, and I'm going to go ahead and put a flower in there. And the final step is going to be, after everything is dry, to put it all together. So you're going to put your egg on your toilet paper stand. And I found that my eggs were a little smaller than the toilet paper roll, so I used a little tissue paper to prop them up for display, but I think they came out great. So I hope you'll try this project at home, and if you do, I hope you'll share your results with me. I can't wait to see them. And I'll see you again next week for another Family Art Friday. Bye-bye.